Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Fredericksburg. We are situated on the ancestral homeland of the Rappahannock and the Potawatomi tribes, and we're enslaved people were forced to work on the land. We acknowledge that this land holds many histories, great stories, and the blood of the people. Good morning.
Morning.
I'm Jackie Arthur, she, her, and hers, and I will be your worship associate this morning. Here at the UUFF, we come together both in person and online as one community. Our services are live streamed and recorded. In our designated camera-free zone are the last 4 rows on the left side of the sanctuary as you enter. If you wish to remain off camera during our service, we strive to nurture learning, inspire spiritual insights, create compassionate relationships, and lovingly transform our community and the world. If you're joining us as a guest or first-time visitor, we're glad you're here. Those in person are invited to leave contact information at the welcome desk in the foyer. For those joining us online, you are invited to visit the worship portal on our website at uuffxbg.org and fill out our connection card. Whether in person or online, this will allow our ministers and staff to get in contact with you and in the weeks to come. Everyone is invited to fill out a card about a personal, significant joy or concern that you would like to share during the service. For those in person, you may pick up and leave your card at the Joys and Concerns table in the foyer. For those joining us online, you're once again invited to visit our worship portal on our website and fill out Joys and Concerns form. Our pastoral care team member collects those in-person cards to read during the service. For those online, your joys and concerns will be read during the next service. And now is the time when you're able to stand and greet each other and say good morning. And we wish all of you to join us, greet one another for coffee and conversation after the service. And it's so nice to have everybody here today. This morning, we join universe congregations around the world in lighting a chalice. Please read in unison. Okay, I say something and then you say that, okay? Rewind. This morning, we join Unitarian Universalist congregations around the world in lighting a chalice, the symbol of our faith tradition. If you are online or have a chalice or candle, please join me as we light our chalices together. Wherever you are this morning, join me in reading our chalice lighting words as they appear on the screen. Each morning, we must hold out the chalice, our being to receive, to carry, and give back.
Good morning. Our opening hymn is going to be hymn number 21. You're invited to turn in the hymnal if you'd like, or we'll have the words on the screen for you. If you're able and willing, please join us standing, and we will sing the first 3 verses of For the Beauty of the Earth.
Source of all to thee we raise this
be seated.
Is far more intricate and rewarding an art than productivity. Ours is a culture that measures our worth as human beings by our efficiency, our earnings, our ability to perform this or that. The cult of productivity has its place, but worshiping at its altar daily robs us of the very capacity for joy and wonder that makes life worth living.
I have a story to share with you. I wrote a little while ago. And in the back of the room on the table, you'll see some illustrations for the story done by a good friend of mine, Roger Clark. Roger and I have been friends for 65 years. Goes way back. So once upon a time, there was a small kingdom of happy people who had a very good and wise king. The kingdom had its castle, of course, and the people lived on many farms surrounding a small village of craftspeople and shops, your basic little kingdom. Then one day, a clock salesman was passing through and went to see the king. He told the king how having a town clock would make everyone more efficient and more productive. All shops would open at the same time, people would rise to milk the cows at the right time and tend their fields always on time, and schools would start and stop on schedule with all the children in their seats and on time. The king thought that sounded pretty good, okay? And so he bought the clock and had it installed in the village. And the people liked the clock too. And the kingdom's business ran more smoothly than ever. But soon, things started going wrong with the clock. It sped up and it slowed down, and sometimes it totally stopped. The people, loyal to their king, wanting to obey the rules, they tried to keep up. But school was held in the middle of the night, shops opened when they should have closed, and the cows got off their milking routine. And the people were divided what to do about this. They pledged loyalty to their king, but this is crazy. And they began blaming each other and what's gone wrong, and the king wouldn't lead us wrong with the clock. Finally, the king, embarrassed to admit his mistake, let things go for too long. Eventually, he heard the people suffering and had the broken clock hauled away. The people were relieved when the clock was taken away, and they forgave their king because they understood what had happened, and they went back to their normal way of living, and they lived happily ever after.
Steve is a UUFF member since 2019 and currently a board member of the trustees here at the UU. Steve found the UUAA at the end of a long journey looking for a place of community and spirit that fit his senses. He was raised Presbyterian, explored Eastern religions in his early adulthood, tried his best to align with several Christian denominations, but eventually found his place at the UUA. Steve has been a member of the Thomas Paine UU Fellowship of Collegeville, Pennsylvania, the Allen Avenue UU Church of Portland, Maine, and the UU Congregation of Castine, Maine, and the UU Fellowship of the Peninsula in Newport News, Virginia. Please welcome Steve.
Well, good morning again. I appreciate the opportunity to share with you some of the, I'll call this a source of my growth in UU. Well, in my late teens and early 20s, I was a hippie with long hair, my clothes fashionably alternative, and all the rest. Anxious and fearful as I was coming of age, I had turned on, tuned in, and dropped out. I was in college mostly to avoid the Vietnam draft, where a well-respected Harvard professor had confronted us with some sympathy. He said that no matter who we are, we can try to leave society and live an alternative lifestyle, but we are too much products of our culture, and inevitably we must and we will return to it. Leaving school and beating the draft, that's an outrageous story for another sermon, I think. I joined a commune in central Maine. I lasted about one growing season. I called Mom and Dad and asked to come back home. The professor was right. I was by then a few years behind my friends who had not drunk the anti-establishment Kool-Aid. I had to again find meaning and build a life in the technological society into which I was born and domesticated. I half-heartedly attempted a professional music career, intimidated as I was by the organized crime families who controlled the recording and performing industries at the time, yet more so by the immense sea of talent besides me trying to make a living at being creative. Wandering around, because I still had that soulful dream to not go along to get along, I found myself falling in love. Peggy was just beginning university studies as a physics major, while pledging foremost to follow and lead each other, two lives in one. I decided to study engineering in parallel to her physics. The hippie in me went along with it because I could learn science and math so long as I did not use the knowledge in vain. Who was I asked myself, with a bit more maturity than in my earlier rebellion, to question or judge science or scientists, technology and technologists after all. Well, I really enjoyed science and mathematics at university and had a whole new appreciation for the gifts and the giftedness of the greats: Newton, Faraday, Maxwell, Einstein, Curie, Schrodinger, and on and on and on. As I looked at my collection of highly technical texts on my many shelves by then, I came to see them as hallowed scripture. I really saw them that way. To me, the equations and models of phenomena in the world were humble insights into the mind of God, learned by extraordinary human beings and now shared with me. I found great meaning in being a steward, a shepherd of these eternal truths. It was like that. Not many engineers have that feeling in school. So I had stumbled back home, and I indeed had found my way. I swore never to use the powers of technology entrusted to me for evil, and I would implore others to think beyond simply getting a good high-tech job and enthralled to the privileges it begat. There was a lot of recruitment, for example, on campus by the military-industrial complex at the time, especially for nuclear weapons systems. I admonished my friends, if you spend your career on nuclear weapons and they never get used, you will have wasted your life. And I said, if you spend your career on nuclear weapons and they do get used, you will have wasted your life. So don't waste your life on nuclear weapons, I told them. My first of 3 technological careers was in research and development in the electric power industry, an industry wherein I felt it safe to work because the ultimate purpose was to keep Aunt Gert's lights on and her refrigerator working. I found it somewhat rewarding on balance, but the competitive pursuit of ever-changing technology never satisfied. In the words of the Moody Blues song, Send Me No Wine, they say they're going to make you leave your heart behind. And I had to leave a big part of my heart behind in industry. My second career was as a university professor. To serve there, I had to leave an even greater part of my heart behind. I didn't know that was going to happen. But for anyone familiar with academia, especially as it has evolved in the last few decades, you might understand. My last career, from which I retired, was teaching senior high school students modern physics at a regional school for the gifted in science and technology in Hampton, Virginia. Gratefully, I was able to leave less of my heart behind and share my insights and experience with the gifted students as they hungered for explanations and meaning in what and why they learned. I changed some lives, I know. They still talk to me, sharing with them what it meant to me to live in a technological society. Still, it was sad to tell them that inevitably they too were going to have to leave some part of their heart behind. At 17, I was anxious and afraid and just ready to quit. At 17, these students were anxious and afraid and ready to quit. This is decades in between. Why, I asked, in the great scheme of things, was I having to calm the anxieties and fears of this next generation as they too were coming of age? And what about the next generation? What about their children? Most likely the same thing, I figured. So it begs the question, and that's the wrong use of that phrase, but it begs the question, WTF? We all know what that means. What is it that we are doing, that we keep doing decade after decade, that our youth are too anxious and afraid to go on becoming adults? And the metaphor of today's prelude song, their hearts yearn for the sun, and all we do is point them to the moon. So in my research, both academic and soulful, I found a fresh insight into this dilemma, and I thought I'd share it with you in a sermon today. We UUs have many, many sources in our search for truth, and this was, you'll see, one of mine. But in our story today about the King's Clock, we saw people adopting to a new technology, a clever way of breaking the day and night into measurable units of time. Before clocks, there really was no concept of time. Things took what they took. Things weren't broken up in time. After some travails, it had a happy ending. The people rejected their artificial time and returned to their natural life. They forgave the king because in their collective wisdom, they knew how, in idolizing gadgets and gadgeteering, leaders and those they lead can lose their way. And going forward, one can become dependent on technology as if enslaved. And in trying to turn back, you could find yourself unable to recall or rebuild the life you once had, as if adrift at sea. The people responded to the risks of attempting to establish and follow a false god, an idol, their clock, and opted for living more closely to the interdependent web of all existence of which they were a part. Good for them. And I thought, let's rewrite the story for the 21st century. The story might go something like this. When the clock engineer saw the problem the village had, he fixed it with some latest clock technology, and he convinced the king to try again. This time, the clock kept pretty good time. That is, its mechanical heartbeat matched more closely and reliably with the movements of the sun and the moon and the stars. The people thought, well, not so bad. Okay, this is better. We'll keep it. This goes on for a couple generations. Okay, the kingdom runs on time in almost every aspect. The parents passed on to their children how to keep time and obey the new rules, living by the clock. And the king's heirs wrote and enforced the rules. Then those children grew up and passed on the clock time-centered life to the next generation. Okay? Then, sure as there is a second law of thermodynamics, the newer version of the clock began to falter, and it got out of step with the natural world. But now the people, this is the grandchildren now, okay, of those who first accepted the clock, knew no other way of living except by the clock. The natural world was a foreign world, again, full of unknown, unnamed, and unpredictable events and patterns they could not understand. The people blamed the king, they blamed the clock engineer, who never considered how to fix the clock in the first place, and they blamed each other. The young rebelled, and ultimately chaos reigned, crops failed, animals sickened, and the kingdom failed. So, a little different story, not a fairy tale. In our 21st century world, in our technological society, technology is just about everywhere, intruding, changing, and making possible even just about every aspect of our lives and living. You can't eat, breathe, sleep, move, heal, or attempt any other activity without technology. Those who have taken tech-free vacations, such as taking a week in the mountains away from social media and away from smartphones and no video streaming, they report how astounded they are by how technology almost totally governs our lives. For a moment, so that we have a little better understanding of what's going on, and to get a little closer to the center of the situation, I'll share a couple definitions. I know this isn't school, it's church, I know. But so technique, the word technique from the French, is the mastery and application of a natural phenomenon in service to human beings. It's the how behind technology. From long ago, we have domesticating fire, shaping stone, smelting metals. Those are all techniques. Up to today, where we have communication around the globe, money, we practice sciences, apply mathematics, computing. Those are all techniques. Techniques, okay, that exploit a natural phenomenon in service to human beings. Technology is the result or the embodiment of technique. In other words, technology is just a system of interrelated techniques. A little different. A technique is what you do. Technology is what you do with, what happens. Idolatry, according to Easton's Bible Dictionary, idolatry is the image, worship, or divine honor paid to any created object. In the writings of our Abrahamic religions, Judaism, Christianity, and Islam, the worship of idols is repeatedly condemned. The very first 2 Ten Commandments go something like, do not worship any other gods but me, and do not make yourself any idols. The fourth and last definition is worship. To worship is to regard with great or extravagant respect, honor, or devotion. So we can conclude technology, this embodiment of techniques, these exploited phenomenon we run into, it's an object. Technology is an object. And it says, thou shalt not pay divine honor and devote yourselves to objects. Therefore, thou shalt not make for yourself an idol of technology, is the conclusion. But we have. Let's look at how we do this and what it might mean. The concept of technology as idolatry was first put forward by Jacques Ellul, a French professor of law, in his book La Technique, published in 1954. This is some old stuff. The ideas have seen cycles of renewed interest and sharpened our understanding of philosophers, scientists, and engineers since then. This has been a source of my UU growth, Ellul's work. As he explains, up until a few hundred years ago, humans lived in a world of relatively very few techniques. We were a very conservative lot. The world to our ancestors was still a vastly complex and mysterious place filled with the perilous and the unknown. We had developed a few techniques to make life a little more predictable, a little more comfortable, last a little longer, but we remained loyal to our religion, our cultures, our beliefs. We went to the tribe for guidance, and doing so, we survived and thrived. But we the people were first. Slowly and inevitably, we enjoyed increasing success in our techniques and technology. One technique leads to another. And then came a revolution. We began to discover that technique, the exploitation of phenomenon, and the bending of nature in service to human beings offered us almost unbounded opportunities, ways of doing and ways of living beyond our primitive imaginations. You can see this object, the technology, these techniques, all of a sudden are being idolized. What Ellul proposed is that all of our problems in the modern world can be traced back to our not perceiving and understanding the central place of technique in our lives and how dangerous is the obsessive or exclusive pursuit of technique. Saturated in the pervasiveness of technique and instructed in no alternatives, okay, the hippies tried, came back. We find ourselves relentlessly, competitively, and exclusively in pursuit of technology to survive and have any kind of life at all. Dependent as we are on technology, at best reluctantly, and at worst enthusiastically, we seek and adopt with little regard for future consequences the next big thing. What's it going to be? AI? What's after AI? The siren song of technology plays to us everywhere, and we sing along. Better living through chemistry. Progress is our most important product. Just do it. Keep going. Go further. Do more. Refresh everything. The world on time. The relentless pursuit of perfection. Moving forward. All of those are phrases of actual corporate slogans. That's how we live. Economists and sociologists in the early 20th century predicted the day, at the end of the 20th century, they said, when we would progress to working only 4 days a week, if that, amidst an abundance of leisure, all provided by technology. Anybody here working a 4-day week? Anybody here enjoying an abundance of leisure? Anyone here foresee this changing in any way for your kids or your grandkids? Anyone think that more technology is going to get us there? I ask those questions. Today, you and I have been and are living in the technology-dependent world of the clock followers' children's children from the updated story. Technology is so prevalent, we don't even know that we live as its devoted adherents. It was just always here. After a heady and hopeful beginning, it was only a matter of time the ancients knew that we self-enslaved and self-destroyed with our idols, including technology. We have little power to break away when technique pulls us to its service, and it's almost like that. If you read Greek mythology and early stories, things were given wills and agency, and technique pulls us in. We're little power to break away. A drug addict, okay, for example, whose idol is this getting high, will forswear everything: health, family, dreams, friends, morals, laws, truth, a sense of his own worthiness, all for the next fix, and believes that only another fix can fix the problem. And his drug of dependence will be the last thing on his list of reasons and people responsible for his predicament. While you and I at different times have blamed capitalists, fascists, Christian nationalists, Jews, WASPs, blacks, MAGAs, and leftists for our chronic modern social demise, it is the devotion to and the idolatry of technology that is to blame for our anxiety and fear, the way Elul has looked at things. What, as humans, can we do? What is the remedy to avoid living or dying in a techno-hell where we have lost our will, which might even be here already? It's not difficult to see, and it is not with practice difficult to apply. Okay, Elul advises that we simply restore the dormant and recoverable techniques of living that had evolved in us and had enabled us and empowered us to dwell in harmony with the living world for millennia, millions of years in success. We flourished for millions of years with careful, guarded, non-idolatrous pursuit of technique up until just the last couple hundred years, when we began our apparent pursuit of almost suicide by technology. Had not the kingdom in today's story been doing well for generations before their clock? So, here we go. If a technique, this is the solution. If a technique appears harmful, immediately or in the long run, to ourselves and our living world, reject it. It's easy. Duh. Seems simple enough. And we do that to some extent through various standards and regulations and social norms. You know, there are some brakes on technology. Yet habits are hard to break, and addictions are cunning and baffling disorders. But if technology is our idol and its techniques our addiction, there is a powerful, successful prescription for recovery. Founded on the practices of the Oxford Group, a Lutheran ministry, 12-step programs for addictions of all kinds point us in a direction that has been very successful recovering from forms of idolatry. After recognizing and accepting that and then insert here, the addicting technique, alcohol, drug, or technology, accepting that is the main problem, okay? We admit that we are powerless over it, that our lives have become unmanageable, and that we need to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understand them. The people in the story did just that. They ended their devotion to the clock and turned their lives over to the rule of nature that originally governed their lives. You can have clocks, but know that neither they nor you can master time itself. And Elul and others have read and followed his logic, and they would agree on the remedy for so much of our modern malaise. So if we can collectively become aware and understand that technology, our pursuit of technique, is the drug that has its hook in all of us today, then we can make a start to roll back this mad pursuit of the ever better way and be able to sensibly, rationally, and dare I say spiritually, live harmoniously in, with, and as the independent web of all existence. We can recognize and turn away from our present idolatry of technology and live free of anxiety and fear again by adopting only those techniques that enhance our lives and align with the world of all the living in which we live. Thank you. Time for questions. I'm going to walk, if there are any. Any questions? We have a mic coming that way. Anyone at all? At least there's one.
Yeah, thank you so much, Steve. That was a lot to unpack there and a lot of food for thought. I keep coming back though to the Pandora's box metaphor. That once this stuff is out there, we ain't never putting it back in. Maybe some of us on the fringes, who have tried to get a keen awareness of it. But my phone informed me this morning that I spent 3.5 hours a day on my fucking phone. I'm sorry, on my phone.
Which phone was that?
My iPhone. I don't know if it's which I mean, how can you argue with technology, right? But I like to think I'm one of those people who's more keenly aware and mindful and connected more with the natural world, and yet the notification was what it was, and I'm embarrassed to admit it. So I don't know, what's your take on that? I mean, I know you talked about some responses, just say no. It sounded like a little just say no there. But I'm just not seeing it. We knew when I was teaching high school that AI was coming, and everybody was like, oh no, oh terrible. And my response was, it's coming whether we want it or not, whether it's a good idea or not. We should stop teaching kids how to write research papers and start teaching them more how to determine whether a source is valid and legitimate or not, because AI's got to write the research papers done. Anyway, I'm just curious about your thoughts on that. You also taught school and college as I did, and have been in that world. Thank you.
Yeah, I tried to Google it because I read this years ago. There was a Native American chief who said, who told his people, it's easy to pick up a gun, it's difficult to put the gun down. And that's the human piece. You touched on a lot of things. Let me put it this way, the work that has to be done. I come from an alcoholic family, not one myself, so I'm so familiar with that problem and its and the recovery from it. And it's more than there are 12 steps, not one. You know, don't drink. There's a whole bunch of other ones so that you don't go back to that idolatrous technique, that worship of alcohol. One way of saying it. And I think that's where we need to go with education, or collectively as a people. At least that's how Elul points to our problems, where we just say no to that next technology. Put your phone down or whatever. Don't stream tonight. Play Scrabble or something like that. But then look at how did we get there? How did we go down that path of idolatry? And I have a little theory beyond Elul I came up with myself that talks about it, but I won't do that today. So there's more work to do than just say no. You have to find out why'd you go in that direction. You have to investigate what is it about people that we are an idolatrous mammal, and go after that.
This is certainly a thought-provoking topic. I know in the news lately, if you all have seen, the high schools are all removing cell phones, so we're moving in that direction, but it almost sounded a little bit, and maybe I misinterpreted what you were saying, like a story of the fall of man. You know, once we got technology, we were doomed. And I think that we tend to idolize hunter-gatherer type people, and they also had technology, and if they didn't have technology, they wouldn't have survived. So I don't think technology is the evil. I think that it lies within our hearts, and it is, and that's where I think talk about how, losing your heart was so important. And we really make the decisions in the end, and we're the only ones who can decide which way things go. And I have seen children that are addicted to technology and as early as 10 years old, and it's awful. However, I don't think that it's the technology, it's the humans that are the problem, and that's where we need to work. And I think we are as a society at least becoming aware, and we're moving in the right direction with this whole idea that high schools are removing cell phones, and what they find is kids start talking to each other and they're happier. So that's my hope, that we can all kind of inspire each other and get outside and take a walk in the outdoor cathedral, because that's where I find my most inspiration. And thank you so much for your thought-provoking talk.
I'll add my little theory, this idea of technique, and then we'll take the last question. Technique is the exploitation of phenomenon in the service of human beings. There is a phenomenon in human beings which is our sense of identity, our sense of self. Hey, I'm a thing. I'm different than the whole universe. I'm something. That's a phenomenon, our self-awareness, our consciousness. As a technique, we exploit that, okay, in service to ourselves, and we turn our back on the natural world, we turn our back on others, and we pursue this idolatry of ourself, is the idea. That's using this technique model to talk about ourselves. Now, to your question, if we can recognize, hey, I'm idolizing myself. This is just another technique, okay? Let me work on that technique, and then these other techniques I'm having so much problems with would be less of a problem. That's just one way of looking at it. And I look at the history of, again, alcoholism. That's what I grew up with. It was, at one time, it was the demon rum is why you drank, right? And then you were a sinner, and you were lazy or something. And eventually it became this very complex illness, with a complex solution to it, to rid oneself of that idolatrous behavior. I look at this source from Elul as, gee, this really breaks down this, this evil heart of human beings, or this fallen from Garden of Eden. That's not really it. We just have this technique we keep exploiting. That's all. And if we saw it as that, stop the heck doing it, maybe we wouldn't get trapped in AI and everything else that's coming our way. That's my thought, not Elul's. One more.
Thank you very much for your talk. It was really wonderful. For me, the alcoholism connection, as far as addiction, makes a lot of sense. And the thing is, you cannot hang around with alcoholics. My challenge is the social interaction. And so I have to continually teach people, when I'm out in the garden, when I'm with my grandchildren, when I'm with a friend, I'm not tied to my phone. I probably won't respond to your text real quickly. And I continually have to do that. And it's kind of embarrassing. I feel bad doing it. And then when someone doesn't respond to my text quickly, I get annoyed. So it really is addictive.
Okay, thank you. We'll move on.
When you give to the UUFF, you help us nurture learning, inspire spiritual insights, and lovingly transform our community and the world. For those gathered in person, greeters will be coming around with a basket for donations. All are also invited to donate via text message to the number listed on the screen eventually. You may visit our website at uuxfbg.org/giving. Our offering will now be gratefully received. May all that has been shared and freely given here help us to grow in generosity and caring for the world of which we are a part. Good morning. I'm Jackie Arthur, and I'm a member of the pastoral care team. Here at the UUFF, we have a weekly ritual and practice of sharing joys and concerns of our beloved community with one another. If you have a joy and concern that you would like to share and make known in our gathered community to be shared, speak forth right now, because there's no written joys and concerns. And if someone would like to stand up and have a joy and concern, just extemporaneous, now's the time. Could we have a mic possibly for Terry? Thank you.
My concern is my house burned down on July 4th, so anybody who could help me with any information on how to rebuild would be appreciated. I am now living with my daughter, who has generously set up an apartment in the basement for me, but I'm looking forward to rebuilding. And anybody who could help me as far as what's required down here. I haven't gone to the building department yet, but I'm probably looking at a modular home, because that could be built much quicker.
Yes, I understand. Well, I'm sure a community will come forth and be helpful as much as possible, because that's a catastrophic experience in your life, and we're very sorry it happened.
But my children have been very helpful. A lot of other people I know have been very helpful and so forth. So I really appreciate it. And all I would say is, I think I mentioned to somebody else, I had a hardwired smoke detector, so the long and short is I got out before, when the flames are going on.
Wow, we're so happy that you're here today.
So that's, some people say that's the bad news, but I don't think so anyway.
Oh, wow. That's overwhelming. Is there anyone else that would wish to come forth with some information about their joys and concerns this last week? Okay, that's pretty overwhelming. Whoa. Let's take a few moments to be present with all the concerns and joys spoken and unspoken in this community. During this next piece of music, you're invited to silently come up and place a pebble into the bowl of water for any joys and concerns that you're holding in your heart. Our closing hymn will be O Brother, Son.
All right, I invite you to join me in standing. It's in the Teal Hymn Book 1066. If you would join me standing, let's sing together, O Brother, Son. O brother, son, you bring us light, all shining round in fairy might. O sister moon, you heal and bless, your beauty shines in tenderness. O brother wind, you seep the hills, your mighty breath, but fresh
Extinguishing the chalice. We extinguish this chalice, but not the light of love and service. May it be a catalyst for spiritual growth and social justice as we carry it outside these walls to the world we live in until we are together again. Go in peace, serve the world, return in love.